You are lying in your own bed. The room is completely dark. Your tired mind is rapidly looping through a completely mundane conversation from 3 years ago, aggressively searching for a fatal mistake you did not make. You cannot fall asleep. Why is your heart pounding like a dangerous predator is standing right outside your door? You know this paralyzing feeling intimately. You check your glowing phone. A completely neutral text message from your boss asking for a quick chat tomorrow morning suddenly triggers a massive wave of pure, unfiltered panic. Your stomach completely drops. What if you were walking into the office tomorrow only to be abruptly fired? You immediately start projecting doom. You build a whole tragedy. You imagine packing up your entire desk, losing your apartment, and having to explain to your family that you are an absolute, irredeemable failure. None of this has happened. Why does your mind constantly draft these horrifying fictional scripts just to mercilessly torture you? You call yourself a chronic overthinker. You probably feel completely broken. You watch other people effortlessly brush off minor daily inconveniences while you secretly spiral into a deep, dark abyss over a slightly delayed email reply. You carry immense secret guilt. What if I told you that this exhausting mental habit is not a flaw in your character at all? Your brain is actually perfect. It is working flawlessly today. It is flawlessly executing a million-year-old survival program designed to keep your ancient ancestors alive in an unforgiving environment where missing a subtle visual clue meant sudden death. Welcome to the threat simulation glitch. Did you know your agonizing anxiety is actually a highly evolved evolutionary feature rather than a biological bug? Let us test this theory out. You walk down a hallway. A good friend walks right past you and does not say hello, leaving you to spend the next 6 hours analyzing every single interaction you have ever had with them. You assume they secretly hate you. Why is your automatic default setting always the absolute worst-case scenario physically possible? Your ancestor faced similar, terrifying ambiguity. They heard a rustling bush. The ancient human who optimistically assumed the sudden noise was just the wind was quickly eaten by a tiger, effectively removing those relaxed genes from the human gene pool forever. The fiercely paranoid human survived instead. Do you see why your nervous system is explicitly hardwired to assume that every shadow hides a monster? You inherited that exact paranoid brain. It requires a dangerous world. Because you no longer have to constantly worry about roaming predators or imminent starvation, your hyper-vigilant survival mechanism aggressively projects those extreme life or death stakes onto your modern email inbox. The modern physical world is generally safe. What happens when a finely tuned survival machine runs out of actual physical threats to fight? It literally invents fake ones entirely. It scans for subtle micro-expressions. Your confused brain treats a slightly sarcastic comment from a coworker with the exact same massive flood of stress hormones as a violent physical attack from a rival tribe. Your adrenaline quickly spikes. Does this not perfectly explain why sitting safely at a desk all day leaves you feeling so incredibly physically exhausted? You are burning vital daily fuel. You are fiercely fighting phantoms. You sit on the comfortable couch trying to watch a movie, but your default mode network hijack turns the quiet downtime into a rigorous, agonizing audit of your entire life. The comfortable silence becomes a trap. How can you ever truly find peace if your own biology fundamentally believes that relaxing is incredibly dangerous? You cannot just simply think positively. You cannot safely ignore the alarm. Telling an overactive, primitive threat detection system to calm down without providing concrete physical proof of safety only guarantees that the chemical alarm will ring much louder and longer. You must completely bypass the intellect. How do you effectively convince an ancient, non-verbal piece of biological hardware that you are actually safe? You have to prove it physically. You must deliberately change your breath. By consciously extending your exhales to be twice as long as your inhales, you stimulate the vagus nerve and forcefully shut down the internal cortisol factory entirely. It is a biological override switch. Can you truly maintain a state of sheer panic when your physical body is behaving like it is completely relaxed? It is neurologically impossible to do. The intense panic will slowly dissolve. Once the physical biological alarm finally stops blaring, you must actively take the vague, swirling catastrophe in your mind and physically write it down on a piece of blank paper. You force it into objective reality. Have you ever noticed how a terrifying, world-ending scenario suddenly looks completely ridiculous when confined to a single written sentence? You strip away the terrifying emotion. You expose the core illusion completely. You realize that your paralyzing fear of public speaking is not a literal death sentence, but simply your brain misinterpreting a room full of staring eyes as a pack of hungry wolves preparing to strike. The paper traps the wild monster. Why would you allow a chaotic storm to rage inside your mind when you can easily lock it inside a notebook? You can now analyze it rationally. You can clearly see the absolute absurdity. By physically converting a massive, overwhelming abstract feeling into a tiny piece of tangible data, you successfully rob the internal simulation of its mysterious, crippling power over your central nervous system. You take back absolute control today. Are you ready to finally stop punishing yourself for having a brain that simply works too well? You are no longer a passive victim. You are the sole active architect. You now possess the profound understanding and the practical physiological tools to permanently break this exhausting cycle of endless anticipation and fully reclaim the lasting mental peace you rightfully deserve. The ancient hardware works for you now. Will you continue to let a primitive survival instinct dictate your modern happiness, or will you choose to flip the switch? You have the ultimate power now. The night is beautifully quiet again. You will no longer waste your immense cognitive energy fighting imaginary battles that only serve to needlessly drain your spirit and unfairly steal your well-deserved rest. You are lying in your own bed. The room is completely dark, and you finally know there is absolutely no predator waiting outside your door.